Welcome, all you Rugrats, to the podcast that is all that and a bag of chips. My name is Mike, and this is the 90s First. And welcome, my co host, Joe Kelly. We call him Jelly. There he is.
What's up, everybody?
How's it going? How's it going today?
It's going great today. Had a good day. Went to work today, and I'm getting to do this with all you guys. So,
Cool.
great
Cool,
day.
cool. And we also welcome Jordan, aka Sci Guy, to the podcast. Welcome, buddy. How you doing today?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
Good, good. Thank you for joining us on our second episode. This is episode 2 of the 90s First podcast, and we are just thrilled for the future and all the content that we'll be trying to create. So welcome, everybody. Welcome. Just really quickly, before we get into the topic of the day, just want to do a quick housekeeping. We are on Patreon, patreon.com/the90sfirst. Link will be in the description of the podcast. We do have 3 tiers currently. We have the $2 recess tier, where you can receive the podcast 2 days in advance, a recording of it. That is our lowest barrier of entry. So if you feel like supporting us just monetarily, that would be the easiest way to do so, and we would greatly appreciate it. Second is our $3 Rugrats tier, where you will not only get the podcast 2 days early, but also get access to an extra blog post that I will be doing every other week. I'll be doing 2 blog posts every other week, and you'll at the $3 tier you'll get access to a second one, whereas the other one is free to everybody who visits the Patreon. And then the $6 tier, the Friends tier. Oh, that was my phone. Hang on. And the $6 tier, the Friends tier, gets you access to a video version of the podcast. So if you are interested in seeing our beautiful and wonderful faces, go ahead and get on that $6 Friends tier. So, second, just we are on socials. We are at on Twitter at the 90s First, and then as well as on Instagram at the 90s First _ podcast. So please go ahead and go follow those. We do daily updates as best as we can. We do try to keep up on them, and then maybe by now, as you're listening to the podcast, we are in the process of creating a Facebook page to also reach out to all you millennials over on Facebook. So finally, as well, I do want to recognize Discord. I want to thank them for having a good video suite to record this podcast. Well, that is it for housekeeping. Gentlemen, I would like to go into a segment.
Wait.
Yeah, whoa. All right, fine.
For anyone who doesn't know, Patreon, people see numbers and they're like, they don't know what it means sometimes. Patreon is a monthly subscription. So that $2, $3, and $6, that's a month. It's not an episode. It's not a week. It's that's 1 month. For $2 a month, you're supporting us, or $3 a month, or $6 a month. That support is huge. But I just want everyone to know it's not per episode. It's just a monthly thing.
Yes, you're so right, Jelly. This is why you are my co-host and business partner. Also, we are in the process of creating a $9 tier, and that's going to be coming up in the later, maybe, who knows? It's coming, guys. Anyway, now can I move on?
Heck yeah.
Okay, let's move into a segment we like to call "What Have You Been Up To?" All right, guys, let's chat about what we have been up to. Jelly, why don't you start us off? What you been up to, bud?
Bro, I have been just getting back to work during all this craziness. So that is fun and cool and exciting. Kind of relearning what it is to have a normal schedule. And it's good. It's it's been nice being home though, so it's taking some getting used to. But yeah, started working 5 days a week again, and then hanging out with the family. Lots of family time, learning to live in very closed quarters with a wife and 2 kids is fun and also insane. And then watching a bunch of 90s TV and playing a little bit of video games.
That's good. What video games?
Right now it's Zelda Breath of the Wild and Apex. Ooh. And I'm a little bit more into Zelda, which is crazy because I haven't been for a while, but I kind of got sucked into it.
Dude, it's so good though. I think Saiga, you've been in it, right?
What was that?
You've
No
beaten Breath of
spoilers.
the Wild, right?
Oh yeah, twice.
Twice. Oh my goodness, I haven't even beaten it
No big
once.
deal. Whatever. Bro, I found the Master Sword and I couldn't even get it. Oh,
That
sorry. It's not Master
stinks.
Sword.
Yeah, it's,
But anyways,
yeah.
let's stop talking about that because it makes me sad. Sci
Sagai, what you been up to,
What have you
bro?
been up to?
I've just been working. Shout out to all my essential employees.
Woo woo.
Uh, just been working, watching some great '90s TV, playing some video games.
Which ones? Which ones?
Been playing Warframe a little bit, and then I
Ooh.
was just recently replaying Link's Awakening.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
The Switch re-release?
Yes, the Switch re-release.
Okay.
Obviously on Super Nintendo. No.
I mean, Link's Awakening was
I'm kidding, it
originally
was
on the
Game Boy.
Game Boy. You
I
weren't
know,
kidding.
I
You
know.
said that with such a serious voice. Don't even. I'm calling you
Bro,
out.
I just
This
said
is a
it before you.
90s
Come on now.
podcast?
Come
No,
on.
And Link's Awakening, the remake, is probably one of my favorite video games of all time. I really enjoyed it. Yeah,
Whoa.
it's up there for me. But
Yo, is
awesome.
Warframe the FPS on Switch?
No, that's
that the
War.
one you're playing?
That's Warface.
They do have a port of Warframe on the Switch, but I
Yeah.
played mostly on the PC.
Oh,
Warframe is a
Fancy.
third-person. Would you
Kinda
say
like
would you say
Tom Clancy's
Destiny-like
Division.
or Division?
Yeah,
Right?
kind of, but it's a lot more
Okay.
grindy than
Okay.
Destiny. But it's like
Okay.
Division in space.
more grindy than Destiny?
Yeah, dude. It's actually insane.
It's insane. I have
He'd-
200 and something hours into it, and I'm only halfway through the ranking system.
Yikes.
Yikes indeed.
I don't have that time to devote, man. I mean, I used to be a WoW guy, but the time you sink into video games matters, and so I sink it into like Apex 10-minute, 20-minute rounds, and then Breath of the Wild I can just put it down when my kids need me.
Right.
I wish I could get into like a good RPG like that though.
Oh, it'd be nice. Man, but you're getting into a good RPG, Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild is a good one, but it's easy to like put it down. I don't get like glued to it.
Oh.
WoW I would get stuck in. Like, I played. Don't tell anyone. Obviously, the podcast you're gonna hear, but I played 28 hours straight on WoW, all the way through.
Well then. All right. So
it was a real grind.
can I get to what I've been doing?
Yeah, what have you been doing?
All right. Sounds good.
Aren't you like a dad or something?
Yeah, I'm a
Like,
dad, family man. Yeah, just been spending a bunch of time with the family during this quarantine life. First of all, as Saigai said, thanks all you essential workers. We've been praying for you, and we just thank you for basically your service during this time. But yeah, just playing as much video games as possible. I've been playing Apex. Played Tabletop Simulator for the first time a couple nights ago. That was amazing. I recommend it. Only $20 on Steam, and you basically get all the board games.
oh, everything's included in that.
$20. Yeah, so
So you
basically,
don't have to pay per game once you get the emulator, simulator, whatever it is.
so basically what it is you go to a workshop and you download a script. And these are people who have created the board games virtually. And
So they coded it all.
yeah, you
and
just
they
you just
give it away.
subscribe to
Mod
it.
that you download.
Yeah, it's like a mod. Yep, you just subscribe to them
That's
as a creator,
crazy.
and you get it. You get it. So, yeah, TTS is
That's so
amazing,
impressive.
and yes, I am abbreviating it. Breviating.
TTS.
TTS. I'm a nerd. All right. That's what I've been doing. Well, guys, you ready
Oh,
to get in
nice.
today's topic?
Do it.
Yes. Can we talk about it? Please, can we talk about it?
Let's talk about it.
I'm
Well,
jazzed.
once again, welcome to our second episode, and our second episode is going to be a live action TV show, and we chose Boy Meets World. Boy Meets World, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of my top shows of all time. like top 10 for me. That's why I chose it for this week. Also, just a little inside baseball to the 90s first. Jelly is going to be picking the next 2 shows that we do. And then after that, we have a surprise for patrons about choosing a show. So stay tuned for that. But yes, we are talking about Boy Meets World. You guys, Boy Meets World here, just really quickly, released September 24th, 1993. I was 1 year old. I'm a babe.
I was not 1 year old.
I was -2.
You were -2. Oh man,
-2.
I was 3. I was 3. I wasn't old, and I definitely wouldn't have enjoyed watching it at 3. But
Oh yeah.
maybe I would have.
I tried watching an episode with my 3-year-old today, and he went to go play. Yeah, rough.
My 7-year-old loves it. My 3-year-old doesn't care.
Yeah. You guys, Boy Meets World, like I said, one of my favorite shows. The first episode aired in September of 1993. It was just called Pilot. You know, TV shows nowadays still do this, you know, live action more so. They just throw a pilot out there to see if it would, you know, if it's going to be something that's good, you know, something that lasts. ABC ended up picking up Boy Meets World after the pilot, and let me tell you, I'm so glad they did, because this show is amazing, right, guys?
Right.
Oh, yes. I mean, I was a first-time watcher. I saw a few episodes when I was younger, but really I never watched the show before. So as a first-time viewer, especially of the first episode, I love this show. I love it. Like, it is so good, and it is so much more adult than I remember in those few episodes that I did see. And those were later episodes, like Corey and Topanga in high school, and some of them I think might have been even out of high school.
Yep.
They were older for sure. And so yeah, this one being, I think they were middle school, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they're in 6th grade. To start.
Yeah, that's like way more adult than I originally thought.
Yeah.
But it was so good.
You say that, and Mr. Feeney just has some jokes that are just like, dude, you know you're talking to 6th graders, right? It's like
fantastic. That's how I remember it being, and it's amazing.
Yeah, right. Saigai, where does this show kind of rank for you? Like, is this one of your favorites?
I mean, it's pretty far up there. I mean, in the way of nostalgia, it's like this show, Full House. I mean, the majority of those live action 90s shows,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's way up there.
Yeah.
And if you're getting me to try to make a list, how dare you? Because I can't.
How dare you? Where do you get off? This is an 81 Honda. That's not a 90s movie. Sorry. This is a 90s podcast. You guys got to keep me on the rails. All right.
Yo, let's get back into it.
All right.
Mike, what do you love about the show?
So let's go ahead and move into a segment we like to call Nostalgia Lane. All right, we are in Nostalgia Lane. Saigai, what types of memories do you have about this show? Sound off, man.
So I remember waking up really early in the morning, back when it was still syndicated on, I believe it was either Disney or Nickelodeon would show it. I would either get up early in the morning while it was still on, or really late at night. I'd just get a little cup of dry cereal and just sit there and watch it. I mean, I don't know what it was about it. I guess just the relatability of Corey and Sean, and I mean, even at sometimes Mr. Feeney, just the relatability of the entire show. Something about it just drew me in, and I would be so upset when the like hour block of the show was ending and something else was coming on.
Yeah, so that would have been on Disney Channel, because ABC has been owned by Disney for a while. So, but yeah, I'm totally with you. I would watch that hour block sometimes too, for sure. Anything else, Saigai? Any other memories?
That's really it, because that's usually the only times that I used to watch it. I do remember for one of my birthdays, instead of my parents giving me anything, they gave me just some cash. And the first thing that I did with that is I ran directly to the store and bought a DVD set of Boy Meets World, which I actually still have to this day.
The whole show,
Nice.
dude. That's
Well,
awesome.
not the whole show, but
Nice.
an entire season, which I didn't think was even possible back then. I was like, how am I getting something that's usually coming through this magical rectangle in my living room
Whoa,
in my
whoa.
hands?
Wait, hang on. You said rectangle. Bro, when I was growing up,
Rectangular.
we were talking square TVs here.
The old boob tube
It was
TV,
still a
man.
CRT.
But
It
Sorry,
was
yeah,
still a CRT,
CRTV.
but all squares are rectangles. Not all rectangles are squares.
what, you just got too
Facts.
fancy on me right there. You just got too fancy. Jelly, my man, hit us up with some nostalgia from your side of things.
Bro, so like I said before, I did not watch this often. So this was a very rare occasion. The only place that we had satellite was at my aunt and uncle's, and that was up in Tahoe, which we only visited a couple times a year. So when I would go up there, and it would happen to be on the Disney Channel, and I was able to watch it, like I obviously relate that to being in Tahoe, being with my family, and doing fun things because that's what we did up there at the cabin. Um, and so like it only has good memories because of that, because I just automatically associate it with good times. But like more than that, like being a fresh face on this,
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to be able to rewatch this with my son. As I mentioned earlier, he's 7 and he's absolutely loving it. I'm gonna have to slow it down a little though. I'm probably not gonna watch a bunch, maybe the first season with him now, and wait until he's a little bit older. I don't know how it goes. I'm only in season 1, so as they kind of progress into more mature kids, I hope to grow that with him so that there's nostalgia building for me and for him when he's older. He'll be able to look back, hopefully when he's my age, which is old enough, and remember this show and have great memories about it.
Yeah, I think that's smart. Because that's one of the things that is part of my nostalgia with this, is that I kind of grew up with this show kind of the same age as Corey Matthews. So I'm like watching this show and growing at the same pretty much age rate. I would say grade wise, I was really into the show starting like 4th, 5th grade. And, Corey was in 6th grade, in this pilot. But,
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, just
So
growing.
you're right there. You're right at the same
Yeah,
age.
yeah. So kind of growing, watching the show, and coming to a point where I'm an adult, and I'm seeing the later portions of the seasons, and really the episodes that I have the most nostalgia for and the most memory of are actually some of the later seasons with Corey and Topanga's college years, actually. So yeah, that's a lot of the memories that I have surrounding the show. And Saga already touched on it, but like relating so much to Sean, I wasn't too much of a troublemaker, but Sean's relationship with his parents I could relate to just a little bit. Like my parents weren't split up and living in different households and stuff like that, later on in the years, but I certainly related with Sean with his relationship towards like his mom and his dad, just distant, specifically towards my mom. That's just who I related with a lot. But I wasn't a goody two shoes. I would say I was probably more of a Corey Matthews, just in the sense of,
Yeah, Corey Matthews is no goody two shoes.
No, he's not a goody two shoes.
We're gonna talk about that in a minute.
But for the most part, projected through the seasons, he's kind of like he's got his head on straight more so than Sean,
Yeah.
So I kind of related to him more than I did Sean, I guess.
I would definitely like my son to look up to Corey over Sean, but maybe rein it in because yeah, we're gonna talk about some stuff here in just a minute.
Yes, yes. Anything else from Nostalgia Lane, guys?
I mean, the only other thing that I could think of, as long as we're good with trivia here.
Yeah, yeah. You could do some small trivia here. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So the composer, the classic season 1 through 4 theme song of Boy Meets World was written by Ray Colcord.
Hmm.
Uh, if y'all remember the old Dinosaurs uh, TV
Oh,
show from
oh
back
yeah,
in the 90s, he was the actually the
we'll have it.
composer. He was the composer of the Dinosaurs theme song as well.
Mike, you have a blank look on your face. Do you not know the dinosaurs?
No.
Oh, bro, that'll be an episode, and you will get to see some amazing, amazing TV.
I think I know what you're talking about.
If you saw a kind of promo ad of it, you would recognize it, but
Oh yeah, I think I know
you'd
what
have
you're talking about.
you'd have to watch it.
Yeah.
So that the same guy you're saying, Sci Guy, the same guy did Boy Meets World early intro and dinosaurs.
Right, the season 1 through 4 intro theme song was written by Ray Colcord, same guy who did the Dinosaurs theme song.
Yo, that's legit.
That is pretty legit.
Today I learned.
I'm gonna learn today. All right, guys. Well, that then, good facts there, Sci Guy. Good trivia. Little bit of trivia for everybody. That's going to move us to the All That Chat, where we dive deep into the first episode. All right, Jelly and Sci Guy, let's go ahead and talk about the first episode. Let's try to get down to the nitty gritty. What things did you see? What characters stood out to you? What was missing? Knowing the future of the franchise, or the series. Yeah. Anyway, pilot. Really quickly, can either of you run down maybe like a summary of the episode for us?
No. I mean, I yes and no. I have enough notes here that I could definitely run it down. Here, let me see. Let's see. We got the opening act, which I made notes on. The opening act starts with Corey and Mr. Feeney having a little interaction. We'll put it that way. And Corey's not the nicest to his teacher. I made a note of it. He's talking back to Mr. Feeney. Then the kids, yeah, then Corey sits down with his buddies at the lunch table. We get a little bit of intro into Sean and Minkus, I believe, right there. And then they transition into class where they're covering Romeo and Juliet in the 6th grade, which I think is crazy. Then we've got Sean and Corey being rebels in the back, not behaving and listening to a Walkman. They go over proper etiquette in the classroom. Then you have a little bit of home life interaction where you meet the brother, the family, the sister. We get a feel for what's going on there. Oh, the topic of girls is introduced, and Corey thinks they're gross. Corey disowns his family and becomes an orphan. Mr. Feeney and him have a good talk, and he gets back together with his family.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And it ends on a good note.
Yeah. So thanks for the good summary there.
Bro, notes.
Notes, yes, that does help. But guys, what first of all, what stood out to you guys? What stood out?
Right in the opening, the kids sitting down at the lunch table comparing how late they stood up with how far into the late night TV they got. I freaking loved it. I was so excited to write that note down that they were judging how late by the skit, the opening act, the first guest, and like I I did the same thing. And I related so much to it. For me, it was Jay Leno or Conan, and like I loved it. It was so good, so relatable for me.
Yeah.
So
So yeah,
yeah, that's
jump
one
in
thing that I did
whenever.
notice. That's something that I noticed too. The kid who was sitting across from them, I had to look it up. I don't even think they said his name, but he was credited as Nicholas. And that's if I remember correctly,
He's
I
from The
don't think we
Sandlot.
ever even right, and I don't
Um,
think we actually even see him again in the series
no, he's not in the
after this
series
one show.
ever again. Hmm.
So that got me down a little bit of a
Wait,
rabbit hole. And originally,
who
what
is
they
it?
were planning to do, the kid across the table, whenever Corey, Sean, uh, just in that opening scene after Corey talks to Mr. Feeney with the whole astronaut drink.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the
That's right.
kid that's sitting across from Sean. I don't think we ever see him in the series again, but that led me down a rabbit hole to seeing who this guy was. Originally, what they had planned to do was have Corey have a new friend that he's hanging out with every few episodes,
Huh.
and there were supposed to be more kids like Nicholas that come through, and you get to see like the way that Corey interacts with different people. But then people started liking how Sean was being interacted with Corey, and that kind of stuck.
Yeah. I mean, I think as you're saying that, just thinking about it, like, just this show as a whole is not going to be good without Corey and Sean. You know,
Right.
it's just
That
not going to
dichotomy
be
between them.
exactly. It's just not going to have the impact that the show eventually had. Um, but yeah, that's an interesting premise, and you know that's kind of exactly what you see throughout some of the first couple episodes. You really see him, Corey, trying to relate to different people and not just Sean. Um, so yeah, anything else on that?
I think on that one, I mean, other than just the astronaut drink, when Corey says you're drinking down or sucking down that astronaut drink, and then Mr. Feeney says, "In space, the astronauts actually have to suck up. You should learn from it."
Mr. Feeney and his just little jokes, man. I love that guy. let's
Such a
Yeah.
quick wit.
let's go down that trail. Mr. Feeney. From this first episode, what do we think about him? We know how he is for the rest of the series, but this first episode,
Some of us don't.
do you start off liking him? Do you start off thinking that he's a good teacher? He's a mean teacher? Like what kind of things do you get from him?
Mr. Feeney. I don't know what happens to him as this goes because I haven't seen enough to the show. So I don't know where. I know he's eventually a principal because I remember Principal Feeney over Mr. Feeney.
Yeah.
So I know he's principal, but at the lunch table when he's sitting there, and I'm sure it's all kids, but especially Corey comes up to him, and he just looks at him. He goes, "Get out of my face." I loved it, and as a kid, I would probably not like it. I would have not liked him very much, but as an adult watching this, he's fantastic. He's so good. He's so funny.
He is. He's
So
hilarious.
I like Mr. Feeney. Everything about him in this episode, especially another note that I put when he's in the classroom and he takes Corey's Walkman and he starts narrating the baseball game. He does it so well. Like he could have
Yeah.
easily been a sports announcer. He does it perfectly. And then he just cuts it off right before. It's like,
Dude,
oh no.
he's like he's just, I mean, even in this first episode, he's a teacher that, I mean, maybe as you see it, like you said, Jelly, maybe as you see him as an adult, he's a teacher that you probably would have wanted, you know?
Yeah.
He's
Absolutely.
I think
I had teachers like him and they were my favorite and I remember them the most.
yeah, I don't really recall having teachers like him. too much. I think I had some teachers who were definitely good influences and um, were certainly truthful where they needed to be truthful. But I don't think I ever had anybody as intense and as loving for their students as Mr. Feeney was. Saga, what do you think about Mr. Feeney?
I agree with exactly what you were saying about how much you don't really get to see that much of Mr. Feeney in your own life. But I mean, like, there's like we learn within this episode, just a few scenes later, Mr. Feeney is Corey's next door neighbor.
Isn't that just the
What would you
greatest?
do if the teacher that you already have to spend all day with in a class
Right?
is just right next door? And especially when Corey was trying to hide the fact that he had detention, and then his mom just says, is there anything you need to tell us? And then Corey tries to dodge the question, and she's like, so you want to tell us about how you got detention? And he's like, how do you already know? And then she's like, your teacher stuck his head over the fence.
I want to move.
I want to move. I'll be waiting for the guy in the gold vest. I'll be in the car.
Oh, it's just so good. It's such a perfect situation, and what makes this show probably top notch and brilliant. Yeah, I'm just gonna stick this teacher as the next door neighbor, right?
Right.
It's like a Wilson type character from Home Improvement.
Yeah,
But you
but
see
like
his face and you interact with him all the time.
yeah, it's just like even more so exactly than than the Home Improvement guy. Wilson, right? Is that what you said? We'll probably have to cover Home Improvement too at some point.
It's a great show. I hope
Yes.
that it comes up. I don't remember when it came out, but
I think
it
it's in
better
the
be
90s.
90s.
Yeah. All right.
And see, that one also led to one of my other favorite quotes of because I've never seen something like this happen in any other show. They actually mention another TV show of
I
Full
made a note
House,
of it.
Yes. Yeah.
I
He
totally got
does.
that.
So
where
good.
where Corey's mom says apparently he'd rather listen to the baseball game on the radio than try to understand the emotional content of Romeo and Juliet. To which Corey responds, "Mom, I'm a kid. I don't understand the emotional content of Full House."
Which is so good. Which is crazy because
Yes.
they came out around the same time, right? And like just the similarities you see in like some of the episodes and just like the family dynamics and everything, like they definitely fed off one another, just knowing both those series. I see it throughout. So like yeah, we said Corey lives right next to his teacher, and his teacher, what an amazing thing to not only have, we'll talk about this because I want to bring it up, to not only have the influence of your parents, good influence, at least in this show, regardless of where you stand with your parents, that this is how the parents of Corey Matthews was portrayed, and to sit next to another good influence, to have another good influence around, and like Corey just doesn't see it in this episode, right? He doesn't see it, right?
Yeah, he's too far removed from it. He's looking at it from the outside going, this guy's in my business and I don't like it.
Right.
He's not thankful for that, but I think later, I don't know yet, but I'm assuming later he's going to be very thankful for having him as a neighbor.
I won't. I will choose to refrain from spoilers for you, for your sake, my friend. Yes,
much appreciated.
Thank you, Zach.
But I do like how it plays on the old what's it called? The old saying of like it takes a community to raise a child,
Hmm.
where you're
Yeah.
seeing not only just the parent figures trying to lead the child in the right direction, but also it. I mean, for me, not having very much leading whenever I was a child,
Hmm.
uh, it shows you how other people are also still looking out for your best interest, even if it's a teacher, if it's a principal, if it's the next door neighbor. People still want the best for you.
Yeah.
Or if that's all the same person.
Yeah.
Right.
Hmm. You know, and I think also with Mr. Feeney in his potentially his greatest performance in all of the series is in this episode 1, where he is in detention with Corey and starts talking about love, not as an emotion, but more so a guiding force. You know, he was using Romeo and Juliet, but he was just saying, he was just speaking to Corey and telling Corey, hey, love is going to be an important part of your life, regardless if we're talking about emotional love towards a girl, emotional love towards your parents. Love is what's going to actually truly guide you. How
Oh, yeah.
how do you guys believe that? How important do you think that monologue for Mr. Feeney was?
It's so good. I wrote it down in my notes and I quoted it specifically because, yeah, it's at one time. Oh, darn it. I just moved it. But so I didn't do the whole thing. But it says, at one time, a man and a woman, he's talking to Corey, a man and a woman loved each other and pursued the unlimited potential of what could come from that love. And here you are. There's no greater aspiration than to have love in their lives. And I thought that was amazing because Corey's initial reaction was detention is a cruel and unusual life-sucking torture, which I also wrote down. And Mr. Feeney's initial was, you shrewd little observer of the human condition.
That was such a
Yeah.
good line because he delivered it so well. Because it was like the tone was so strict and stern that it was just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, his delivery on it definitely made it. It was so, but yeah, it was so good. And then I think that from what I've seen of this season of this show, I would say that's the most overarching point, at least in season 1, is the love of family
Hmm.
uh, in it. From the little sister
Yep.
who is adorable and loves her brother, to the older brother who teases and torments his younger brother, but also loves him, and you can see that. I made a note. It's very realistic. Is what I remember because I come from a family of 4, and I remember that. I remember the teasing, but also knowing that I was loved and cared for by that
Yep.
person. And I think that
Hmm.
that's like the overarching theme of season 1, maybe the series, but season 1 so far of what I've seen. I would say that is the overarching theme is love, and love from family, and love from that love and probably support from kind of everyone in your life.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
and yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly with that. That's a huge thing and a very key thing, and also a very cool thing.
Yeah.
I like that. There's not a lot of shows that are pushing that, especially nowadays.
Hmm. Hmm. Side guy thoughts.
I mean, Jelly, you pretty much nailed it on the head. Uh, the one thing that I would add is the way that the one thing that kind of stuck with me, especially when I was younger watching this, not really understanding truly what the whole love part was, when Mr. Feeney references or refers to love as the quote greatest wonder of the universe.
Yeah. Hmm.
I mean, that really kind of put some things into perspective for me. Just
Yeah,
Yeah. I agree.
kind of like the glue that holds the majority of relationships together. Well, all.
Yeah. And I think that is one of the best quotes in Boy Meets World history, is that love is the greatest mystery. And it, you know, it kind of truly is, at least in this world. I think that we as humans don't quite understand that emotion, that choice, that decision, um, you know, I think Feeney's right, right? And as Jelly, you know, been watching it, and as you will come to find out, Feeney is right a lot of the times.
I will not be surprised by that. Not at
So-
all, because yeah, this episode he kills it. He is
Yeah.
right all the time.
Mhm.
My my favorite little tidbit after all of this cool talk is that at the end of the episode, Corey's thoughts are girls are dumb and stupid. He lists all of that off. He gets all these great things listed, and it's like at the end of it, he's still like, "Eh," which is the kid response to all of that.
Right, right.
You're speaking big words, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
All right, let's move on. Sean, he's not really a focal point in this first episode. We see him slightly in the beginning, as well as in a couple other cafeteria scenes, I believe, and then in the classroom a couple times. But it's interesting that in this first episode, you really don't see the impact of Sean's character at all. And I think that's an interesting point to chat about here really quick.
I know why.
You know why?
Would we like to know? Yeah. So in my trivia deep dive, it's because Sean wasn't supposed to be a big part of the show. They, like Saigai said earlier, they had written in for Corey to have multiple friends and see how he interacted with different people. The fan reaction for Sean was so strong that they wrote him in as a main part of the series as the best friend.
Yeah.
For that reason. And I think that because of that, because that first episode, he was kind of supposed to be not a one-off, but a limited character in the show.
Mhm.
That his kind of presence isn't felt, especially as much as in the later even episodes of that season.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of a big deal in the rest of the season. He comes up a lot more. He's the best friend, and but yeah, for the first episode, he's kind of just he's not background, but he's definitely a side character. He's not a main character yet.
Mhm. Yeah. Saigai, got anything?
Agree. I mean, like I had said with that deep dive that I had found with the characters all supposed to be different. However, I do feel like if there was one character from this pilot to kind of focus on, it's got to be Sean. I mean, with especially with the haircut and the way that they styled him, nothing screams 90s prepubescent kid more than Sean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he fits in the mold pretty good.
Yeah. Which is interesting because you see his cut, you see the way they, you know, kind of sort of designed his character, and you would think he would be the main character of the series, right? And you know, you see throughout the series definitely that Sean is the boy that meets world as well. And you know, it's not just Corey. Obviously Corey's the main character, but you see that Sean is just as a main character as Corey in the series. And to think obviously that he really wasn't a focal point in this first episode is pretty interesting. And I think it speaks to the rest of the characters. They believed that the other characters could make the show stand. Do you guys agree with that?
I mean, even when it comes to, what you were saying about with Sean basically being also the boy who meets world. I think that's what the producers were trying to go for, is less of this is just one person's story and more of this is a story that we're going to focus on this one person, or say we're going to focus on Corey, we're going to focus on Sean this one episode, but it's something that can be transferred. It can be sent over to anybody.
Yeah, I mean it's a journey that so many people are taking, right? especially at that age. And
Right.
you know, as you it's just interesting to know that Sean, and we'll get to another character here shortly, but Sean wasn't a prevalent person in this first episode, but he eventually becomes a boy that meets world. I think that's what's super interesting about this, and glad that they made that decision to change it all. So, all right, let's move on. How do you think the story between Corey and his parents, played out in this? Like, first of all, I'll just sound off really quickly. His parents are awesome.
Yeah.
They're just, I think they're strict but cool parents, and that's something that
Yeah.
a
I would agree.
lot of kids watching this show when it aired was looking up to and wanted in their life, right?
Yeah, they were definitely the epitome of the cool parents, but also had boundaries. Like
Mhm.
they were cool parents, understanding on almost every level. But if you messed up, there was consequences,
Yeah.
and like that was definitely realistic for me because like when I was younger, like I knew the same thing. Like my parents were pretty cool with what I was doing, as long as it wasn't against the rules. Like they had those boundaries, and as soon as I crossed those, boy, I was in for something. But I had a lot of freedom in that, and that growing up around the same time, like I was obviously lucky that I got to experience some of the same freedoms that he did, as far as like hanging out with friends after school, walking around the neighborhood, things like that. Not that that happens often nowadays. I think that's the difference. And his parents were just like okay with it. But for me and for him, you mess around in school, you're in trouble at home. I
Right.
think that was yeah, that was something that stood out for me. Like in the moment, for some reason, every time I got in trouble at school, my parents knew immediately. Like when I got home, they already knew, and I was already in trouble, and I didn't even know it yet. And so just like him, I'm coming in like all happy and giddy and whatever, and they're like, "So your teacher told me," and you're like, "The day's not even over. How can my teacher talk to you?"
Right.
I'm like, "Okay, what did my teacher tell you?" And so, like, same thing. Like, I knew I was in trouble, but the cool parents, like, understanding, always listening, always supportive, but also real.
Mhm.
Like, you're my kid, and I'm gonna teach you. I'm
Yeah.
gonna make sure that you learn these things.
Mm-hmm. Saga, what you got?
So this was actually his parents, Amy and Alan, were actually one of my talking points as well. I'm going to start it out with a question. When you were younger, if you got upset, would your parents just be like, okay, if you said, I'm moving out, I'm going to go live in my treehouse, I'm done with this family?
Yeah. First of all, I lived in an apartment when I was growing up. There were no tree houses, but you're right. You're right, Saga.
I definitely tried the runaway thing, and my parents were like, "All right, well, don't come back." I was like, "What?
Right?
What do you mean? I thought you
But
loved me."
you see him going out there, you see him going out to his treehouse, and the whole time he's just completely written off his parents, completely written off Eric, because Eric wanted to take a girl to the Phillies game that could possibly lead to the World Series. I mean, but even still, after writing his parents off and everything, his mom still brings him barbecue chicken out to his treehouse for dinner,
Right? What is that?
while still leaving that little hint of you need to come back inside the house by telling him that they were renting out his side of the room to a new kid.
Yeah, we're just gonna lease it to someone else. Don't worry, he
Yeah.
won't replace you. But yeah, that was great.
Man, so like that's definitely something I wanted to mention, that I think you have to have a good, strong relationship with your children, if you're going to, as like I said, let them live in your treehouse. You know, they would have no ability to stop that kid from, you know, running physically away from the house, and to have that trust, and you know, that led to one of the more important scenes of the first episode, right? You know, Corey Matthews seeing Feeney eating alone after he receives a call of cancellation for everything. So I think it's pretty crazy. I think it's pretty crazy to think that you would ever have parents like that. But also parents who trusted you enough that they knew that you were just going to move back in eventually. and then you know, Corey walks into his room, grabs some underwear, and she's like, she literally comes up with a water gun, points it to his bag, and be like,
"Oh, the Nintendo pistol. That was the Nintendo Duck Hunt pistol."
Yeah, who's in my son's underwear drawer? You know, who is this person? It's just really cool seeing parents like that.
Who else is gonna want my underwear?
Good stuff. Well, really quickly before we move on to our trivia, I wanted to talk about a couple characters that either A, are missing, or B, mainly not really based on this episode, but certainly in my opinion mistreated. And that is, let's first and foremost talk about Minkus. Minkus is not prevalent in this first episode. Does he even have a scene? I know he's in the opening credits, you know, saying that he's a character, Lee Norris. But does he even have a scene? I forget.
Honestly, don't remember him being in this one.
Yeah.
Other than possibly in just like the classroom scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't even know if he was in that one, to be honest. So in my opinion, Jelly, we're kind of it's gonna be a little bit of a spoiler, but I believe we do need to talk about it. Minkus is a character that I believe should be in this whole series. And maybe Saigai can sound off on this first, but I love Minkus as a character. And you see him in the opening credits of the first episode. He's not even in the first episode, which is whatever. You know, he's in most of the episodes of the rest of the season. But he is in only seasons 1 through 3. Saigai, correct me if I'm wrong.
I believe so.
But yeah, what do you think about that? Like, do you think he should have been in the full series or not? Do you think that's too much character diversity and trying to have a focal point?
Not really. I mean, I would have liked to see more of him. I love the way that he is like a foil to both Corey and Sean. You know, the smart, nerdy style kid that gives something for. I mean, I don't condone bullying or anything, but there are quite some funny scenes, especially a few episodes in with the whole water gun episode where Minkus is finally able to kind of get a little bit of his revenge.
Yeah.
Somebody pulled out a water gun and he said, "Rethink that." Whenever he pulls one out of like I think it was like a violin case or something like that.
It was a tuba case, dude. It was a tuba case. But yeah, I think the relationship between Corey, Sean, and Minkus specifically is one of the series' best, and to not have Minkus past season 3 or wherever he gets cut out, it's a little tough for me. I like that character so much. I wish he was in the full series.
I would totally add to this, but I got nothing.
All right.
He's fantastic in season 1. I've seen him. He is kind of bullied, but also he's I would say he's picked on more than bullied.
Mhm.
People will feel differently. I was similar to him when I was younger. I was a smart kid. I was a studious, and I read books, and I liked them.
Yeah.
And by sixth grade, I was not friendless, but had one friend, one like real good friend, and then like people I knew. And for me, he was very relatable. But I was picked on. I was picked on when I was younger. But I was never bullied. I was always big enough to where bullies didn't pick on me. They just kind of, oh, nose in a book, oh, bookworm, oh, blah blah blah, but nothing past, words, and for me, words or whatever. But I love his character. I love the squirt gun battle thing, the like, say hello to my little friend esque, thing, and I'm sure that's exactly what they were picturing when
Yeah.
that happened,
Mhm.
because that's what I thought of immediately was
Yeah.
the Scarface. He pulls out the whatever it was 3,000, or no, his was bigger because Corey ended up getting 3,000 and traded for the 1,500s. But yeah, his character was fantastic in that. I loved it.
Yeah.
Relatable, good. It's sad to know that he doesn't, make it through the series, because I'm just now finding that out.
Sorry,
So that
friend.
hurts a little bit.
Sorry, friend.
Retroactive spoiler alert.
I'll live. It's only what 30 years late, so
Yeah, right. But Minkus, he dishes it back to them though, right? You see that in a
yeah,
couple
he doesn't just
episodes
take
later.
it; he gives it back for
He doesn't
sure.
take it. One of my favorites. Just rewatching the first season again. Sean and him are bantering back and forth, and Sean tells him, just smarty pants or whatever, and Minkus is like, "Oh, go fix a toilet." it's like Minkus could definitely dish it out.
Oh yeah, his comebacks were fantastic, especially to
Yes.
Sean. He's like,
One
"I'm
of my
smart, you're stupid, and I'm gonna show you."
one of my favorites was when Sean said something about Minkus being a Poindexter, and then Minkus says, "Oh wait, I can see your future now. Your Honor, dude, I'd like to take the plea bargain."
Right? That's just too good.
Just dishing it right back to him.
Minkus was the best. So
Big oops.
I think the first episode, him not being in there, and that being sort of a commentary, so to speak, of four of the 7 seasons. It's really tough for me personally. Really quickly, I know that we're running a little bit long on time, and I know that we should have talked about her a little bit more.
Can we talk about her?
But Topanga Lawrence, she is not in this episode at all. In fact, she doesn't even arrive until episode 4 of the series of season 1. And even somebody who's never watched the full series, Jelly, Topanga, right? You know that Topanga is such a focal point of this series, and yet you don't meet her until episode 4. And when you do meet her, she's a very different Topanga, right? Very different.
Yeah.
So sound off, you two. Let's hear it. What are your thoughts on Topanga, A, not being in the first episode, and B, just being completely different in season 1?
A, not being in the episode, I think it's actually kind of cool, because even though she's one of the things that I remember most, and obviously most people are going to remember the most about the show, are Corey and Topanga being like the 90s bombshell, like kid babe that everyone who was that age loved. Like, I think it's awesome that they left her out and that they built a relationship around it. I saw an amazing quote today, even. I was looking up different things about the show, and like Corey's talking to his mom years later, later in the show, and it's an episode I haven't gotten to yet, but the quote was beautiful, and I'm going to screw it up, so I'm not even going to say it. But it's in one of the episodes, he's talking to his mom, he's talking about his relationship with Topanga, and he calls the years where he's teasing her, not nice to her, whatever, the lost years. And I love that there is that that like getting to know her, one as a character, and then getting to know them as a couple and characters. on screen, I think that's awesome. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I love that they left her out. I love that it's something I get to look forward to now as I am rewatching. And the fact that she's not in it doesn't sully the episode at all for me. I think it's still probably one of the best pilot episodes for any show that I've seen.
Wow, that's high praise.
Agreed. I mean, would I have loved to see Topanga from the get-go? Yes. But also, with how much character introduction, how much kind of getting to know the different roles that we're having in this pilot,
Yeah.
when Topanga comes in hot, whenever she ends up finally coming in, do you think you would have been able to keep as straight of a face than like putting the lipstick on her face in a circle and then across down when she's doing like an interpretive dance?
Right.
Would you really have been able to sell a show
so
with
good.
that?
No.
No, I totally agree with you, Saga. She, I think it was I think it was an amazing debut, for Topanga for 4 episodes later, and I think it's a good thing to see the show evolve once you get her into the fold. You guys, that's episode 1 of Boy Meets World. That was fun. Did you guys have fun?
Yeah, a lot happened in one episode. It was
Right?
great. I had a ton of fun talking about it.
Dude.
Yeah, I mean, can we just cover a couple of things that happened, just like rapid fire in that episode that you
Yeah,
wouldn't expect?
let's do that, and then we'll actually end it out there. So hit us off with some rapid fire.
Episode 1, they talked about suicide in the very first episode of a TV show for kids.
Right?
What? Other things they did. Real life issues with the older brother. Older brother gets a girlfriend and kicks the little brother to the side. That's real. Like, yeah, they have their thing, but girls, man. Girls. I'm older and girls.
Oh my goodness, Eric! I wanted to talk about that really quick.
I was about to say,
I'm
you
so
sorry.
never brought up Eric.
Okay, so oh my goodness, are we even a Boy Meets World podcast? Or what?
No, we're not. We're a 90s
we're not.
TV
Okay.
podcast.
So, Eric, here are my quick thoughts on Eric. I like
Best
this version.
Older brother on TV.
Yes, he's a cool older brother. And Saga, maybe you can talk to this more than Jelly, but I like Eric season 1 better than any other Eric. I think that's probably one of the show's downfalls. I think that making Eric into the way that he is later on in the series, I don't like it. I don't like it the most. I think it's, yeah, comic relief is one thing, but I think it's I think you got that with this Eric. What do you think, Saga?
Somewhat agree, somewhat disagree. See, Jelly, I don't know how much I can talk about with you wanting to watch the rest of the show.
Bro, I'm just going to take my headset off. You go for it.
I mean, the thing of it is, Will Friedle being Will Friedle, and the way that he plays Eric Matthews, being just kind of the goofy and honestly most times idiotic older brother, creating a foil. I know I've said that a few times. Creating a foil for Corey. I mean,
no.
Just one more second, Jelly. When it comes to like later on in the series, especially when they're in college, the iconic plays with squirrels is what comes to mind. If we wouldn't have had the background of the goofy, semi-idiotic Eric, then we would never have gotten some of that, in my opinion, comedy gold.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. My biggest thing is that they kind of made him out to be this like dumb character.
Right.
And that, I guess that is the portion of Eric that I really don't like that they changed him into. Because I mean, like you get that comedy gold like you said, but it's almost always at his expense of quote unquote I'm stupid, which is a little annoying to me. That
I can see where you're coming from there.
yeah. So that's kind of
But
my thoughts on Eric.
that also does kind of make it that much more of a dramatic and emotional moment when sometimes later on in the series when Eric does come to Corey with more sage advice, more like experience, without going into
Hmm.
too much detail for Jelly.
Yeah.
But I mean, it makes it that much more of a caring moment of like you see how much Eric truly does love everybody in his life, and even though he's this goofball of a character, you can see. I mean, I he's kind of pure in a way.
Hmm. Yeah. I agree on all levels. I just wish they didn't create him to be quote unquote stupid. Um,
True.
that's my biggest issue with it. But anyway, let's wrap up this podcast. Jelly had a couple other bits of episode one he wanted to sound off on.
Yeah, not too much. Just those are the biggest things. Also, a Walkman. I mean, who has a Walkman now? Not even. There are kids who don't even know what those are, which is hilarious. Studying Romeo and Juliet, which I didn't do until high school. They were covering in the 6th grade. I feel like I'm missing out on a better education. And
no,
then,
you're not wrong.
What late night TV were they watching? I have no idea, but I want to know. I want to know which program it was. Most likely, it was on. I was on ABC, or it had been ABC. So, good possibility it was. I don't know who it was. I have no idea, but I want to know. I'm intrigued.
Intriguist.
Yes. Other than that, like the show's great. It's realistic. Like watching it back as an adult now, as someone who lived through that time and had a not super similar family life, but similar enough, like it felt realistic to me. Super relatable. The parents were relatable. I have a bunch of siblings. The siblings were relatable. I have an older brother. The older brother thing was relatable. All of it. I related with everything, and it was so good and it done so well that for a pilot episode of a show to have done so good and come in and I mean knocked out of the park. Straight up baseball reference because it's all over this.
Yeah.
Home run for this episode, for this show, and so far for this season. Yeah. I can't give it high enough praise.
So would you give it 5 Walkmans out of 5?
Bro, 10 Walkmans out of 5, hands down. I'm going to be rewatching the whole thing. Like I'm hooked on it, and I love that it's on Disney Plus.
I'm so happy.
Watch it with us. D plus.
D plus. Sci Guy, the 5 out of 5. How would you rate this?
I would give it about a 4 out of 5 Feeny mustaches.
Feeny mustaches.
Solid.
Yes. I would give it. Let's see. I would give it 4 out of 5 Little Sister teacups.
That's where it's at.
All right.
5 chicken dinners out of 5.
Well, guys, this has been a fun time talking about Boy Meets World, the first episode. Once again, if you guys would like to support us on Patreon, go ahead and check us out at patreon.com/the90s1st podcast. My name is Mike. That's Jelly. And thank you once again, Sci Guy, for joining us on this episode. This is the 90s First, and we'll see you later, Rugrats.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.